wanted to get to this clip. It's going to be a couple minutes clip here from JD Pickles' show with Aaron Murray yesterday, talking about Carson Beck. And look, I'm going to play the comments. We'll talk about it after in a second here. I think it's interesting perspective because Aaron Murray obviously played quarterback at Georgia, and he's someone who, listen, he definitely has sources there, but at the same time, so I don't want to say too much without giving my opinion before he speaks, and I can say it after, but he's someone who's close-ish to the situation when Beck was at Georgia. So I take his comments, I want to hear what he has to say. And I'm going to pull that up right now. Again, this is from JD Pickles' show on On3, and he had Aaron Murray, former Georgia quarterback and analyst, talking about Carson Beck.
You mentioned Carson Beck, man. Transfers after, flirting with the NFL, declaring for the NFL draft, ends up popping one day that he's going to go to Miami. I think the narrative around him is a little bit warped too. I feel like the time at Georgia for that second season, with what we just mentioned, the drops, not being able to run the football, it just didn't feel like a very Georgia-ish team a year ago, and they still won the SEC. Where are you with Carson Beck right now, man, heading into what will be his first year in Coral Gables?
I still think at the end of the day, if Carson was healthy, he probably would have been the number 4 quarterback taken off the board. So you're still talking about, let's go back to Cam Ward a year ago. Cam Ward was projected to be 3rd, 4th quarterback taken in the NFL draft, or 3rd, 4th round in the NFL draft, not 3rd, 4th quarterback, but kind of somewhere that mid-round area. Decides to come back, goes to Miami, has the year that he has, is now the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. And I'm not saying that there's some correlation it's going to happen that Carson transfers to Miami and he turns around and is going to be the number 1 quarterback pick. But he was projected a year ago at this time to be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. So there are already a lot of people very high on his skill set, his size, and what he projects to the next level. Let's talk about 6'5", 230, 235, great arm. Can throw with touch, can throw with anticipation, can push the ball vertically down the field. I think he checks off most of the boxes. I think last year, going back to what we talked about before, at times he was pressing. At times he felt like he had to be Superman. And at times that's what caused the interceptions and the mistakes. He needs to learn to continue to play within himself, play a very mature style of football. And speaking of the word mature, I think that's the biggest red flag for me right now is where is he in the maturity factor? Because you have heard in the locker room at Georgia, there was some disconnect with Carson and his teammates, that there wasn't this guy that was a true locker room guy. And that's why guys kind of rallied around Gunnar Stockton. There's a little bit more belief in him as maybe a person, as just a human being. I'm not saying like Carson is like this, bad, evil person and stay away from him, but there are some possible character flaws that you heard from the locker room. Then you're seeing in the offseason with all the nonsense on TikTok and then the girlfriend stuff. And it's too much mess. It's too much for a guy that's going to be 23, 24 years old. I need you focusing on football. You're on a brand new team. You're coming off an elbow injury. I don't need you in the media other than, hey, man, I'm throwing 5 yards today. I'm throwing 10 yards today. I'm throwing 20 yards today. I'm progressing. I'm learning the playbook. I'm here to lead the Miami Hurricanes to an ACC championship next year. Not TikTok news, girlfriend news. It's like there's a sense of maturity, who he is as a human when it comes to the locker room that is kind of carrying over from Athens now to Coral Gables. That does have me worried a little bit. But from a pure talent standpoint, there is no doubt Carson Beck is a very gifted passer in football. It's going to be interesting to see how healthy he looks and how fast he looks when it comes to health to start the season. And then how well he's built that chemistry with his receivers. It's a brand new receiving core. Miami lost a lot of talent. And yeah, they're still talented, but a brand new quarterback, limited reps, new receivers. It's going to take some time to gel, and we'll see how long.
All right, so let me bring myself back up here. Sorry, there we go. So I'm back again, live from Istanbul. So a few things, man. I think honestly, the thing that I agree with most that he said was what he said at the end there about the chemistry. That's the biggest question to me. I have no question about the talent in terms of the arm and in terms of talking to NFL people who still, assuming the health is there, right? Still have him as a top, 3 or 4 3-round quarterback, we'll say, because obviously, as D Money mentioned today, once you get past that mid-round range, it'll be really late because he's a high-profile name. But I think the talent is, like I just said, not an issue. And really the locker room stuff. So look, my reason for saying what I said before and saying that he has an interesting perspective is because he's around, right? He's around Georgia, definitely still talks to people there. And there aren't probably many good things to say about him. He left. Yes, there are sour grapes there that he left. And they can spin the narrative that, the locker room rallied around Stockton all they want. But if Beck was still there, obviously this stuff wouldn't be coming out. I go back to the Jaden Daniels when he left Arizona State, having represented a player who was there at that time, and he wasn't partaking in this stuff necessarily, but seeing the videos coming out of that locker room with players trashing his locker room and his locker and throwing stuff, taking stuff out of there that was still there, right? And basically clowning on him. And we see what has transpired now. Aaron Murray talks about the playing within himself on the football field, right? He talked about the talent, but he said he needed to, protect the football more, play within himself, and play a mature style football. I don't think there's a single quarterback out there who wouldn't say that they don't need to improve on that. I think Cam Ward had way more improvement from that standpoint last year coming into Miami from Washington State with his turnover issues with the fumbles, right? Some of the picks that he threw just on film where he was trying to do too much. But you also have to look at what Carson Beck was dealing with last year with that receiving core, with that run game not being what it normally is at Georgia, the amount of drops that were coming from. So yeah, he probably did feel, and Murray said he felt like he was trying to be Superman out there, trying to do too much. Yes, that tends to happen when you don't trust the receivers around you and you don't trust the skill guys around you, which that tends to happen. So to me, I'm not saying that he doesn't need to tone back on some stuff, but that's what any quarterback needs to do. Then he went from, and that's when he went from a mature style football to then quickly he said, well, and that's what I'm really concerned about. And this is Murray, is the maturity really off the field? This is what kind of annoys me when we talk about the Beck situation and the social media and all that. He himself is not sitting there living on social media, being in a social media world. He was dating someone who, from what I understand, and look, the Cavenders have been having great to the University of Miami. This is not going at them. They have a very successful thing going for themselves. I think from what I understand, a lot of what Beck was doing on social media was to appease the situation, right? And appease the girlfriend. I think we've all probably been there, right? And doing stuff that maybe he didn't necessarily want to do. I don't think that's his personality, but you know what? Is that taking away? Is that his focus? No, it wasn't. I just think that was part of the relationship he was in. So that it's very tough for me to blame him for that. If you want to look at the video that came out when she was talking about the relationship too, she's even saying it wasn't even anything about him cheating or anything too. So if you want to go to, well, his mind's in another place, look, you guys can, everyone can assume what they want to assume about the situation. But this to me is a guy who is now coming to Miami, seeing what Cam Ward did last year, reshaping his image. And it wasn't an image thing for Ward, but reshaping the draft stock. And I think once the bullets start flying, once the football gets snapped and he's out there playing, a lot of this stuff goes away. Right. So, that's kind of my view on it. I'm going to look at the comments here and kind of see what if you guys agree with me or not. But yeah, man, I think once football starts getting played, all this other stuff gets thrown out the window. So yeah, Hassan says all UGA players and fans still upset because Miami takes players that they want, but works both ways. So yeah, I mean, look, this is college football, right? It's a nice little, I gotta say, man, nice little rivalry brewing here between Miami and Georgia, kind of out of nowhere. I thought Miami and Georgia, I feel like had a solid relationship up until the last few years, because there was the Mark Richt thing. You know, Canes fans, obviously we weren't happy with how it ended with Richt, but understanding of the situation and very grateful for the donation to the indoor facility and making Miami serious about football again, right? I think, yes, there was the DS stuff in between was awful and set things back, but people forget what Rick did. So there was that connection there between the Miami and Georgia fans. And now between the Beck stuff, and I think Miami fans for months before even the Cantwell stuff have kind of been going back and forth with Georgia fans who, you know, don't like Beck very much because of how things ended and him leaving, right? Listen, he was a projected first pick of the draft a year ago, first round pick. So yeah, it kind of, to me, is kind of what happened with Miami fans and Tyler Van Dyke, right? He had the terrible season and all of a sudden it's like, you know, and then he in the media, certain stuff came out with who was it? Luke Fickell last year, where he was, blaming the Miami staff for his downfall and all that. So there eventually became some animosity that came from it, from Miami's fans' point of view. And then obviously TVD, there was the rumors about him maybe entering the portal. So I throw that in there as well. So there was some stuff that happened, but this is the stuff that grows with fan base, and it's funny to see the rivalry now with the Cantwell stuff too. But Hassan, I think you're right, man. I think there's still sour grapes there. Let's see what else here. Let me get to some more of these comments. Yeah, Lord Bagnan says Miami, Georgia this year going for a lot of the same players. Reminds me of Florida last year and Ohio State the 2 years before that. Listen, if you're in recruiting battles with Georgia and Ohio State consistently, it's a good thing. And you're not winning all of them, but you're winning a good amount of them, right? So obviously with Ohio State, you couldn't win that Jeremiah Smith one, but you still, I think, did a really good job there across the board. Derek Huck saying, talking about Beck, I think he came down to Miami and just wanted to focus on ball, lay low, and that might have rubbed his lady the wrong way. Look, I'm not gonna speculate about other people's relationships. That's definitely not something I'm gonna do. But again, I think you can see that's not his personality. If you guys follow him on Instagram, right? And let me pull up his page right now, because the only thing I've seen from him recently on his story is just him playing golf, right? Yeah. So I'm looking at his page right now. He has 4 posts. 2 of them are from Georgia, back 2023, and then January 1st, 2024, in the Orange Bowl, I guess when they played Florida State. Then it's a picture of him playing TPC Sawgrass, which that's wow, man. Very nice pictures here at TPC Sawgrass. And then the picture of him committed to Miami. And he's not someone who's posting on his story around the clock. It just, that's not his personality. So when people say the social media stuff, what, his girlfriend was on social media? Whoopee. Like, I'm sorry, Aaron Murray, if you were playing in this age, you would have a girlfriend who was on social media and was probably posting you in ways that you didn't really want to be posted. That's all I'm going to say. And by the way, again, I like it. Aaron Murray, I honestly, find his analysis good. I think there's ties there that kind of keep him from being completely unbiased about it.